people talk, listen, man, I'm going to raise that red flag.
This narrative, especially after 1 year.
1 year.
One bad year. It's one big splash move. And because I don't think people understand how much cap space we can create.
Alex, I want to ask you, because you're a very humble person.
And I'm never going to be right about anything.
Yeah.
I was right.
What's up, everybody? I'm back. I know it's been a little bit of time, but I'm back. First and foremost, I guess everybody has an opinion about the NFL Awards show and the Hall of Fame and yada, yada, yada. I mean, if you care that much, then I don't know what to tell you. Like, I really don't, because it doesn't make any sense logically. So I'm basically a logical show, I guess. So, all right, cool. Burrow's comeback player of the year. I don't know what that means. Like, he played 10 games last year. He's 5-5. And then Browning came in. He was 4-3. They went 9-8. He played the whole season. He went 9-8. I don't know. You played 7 more games. You got the same record. I just don't know what comeback player of the year means. But cool, whatever. Josh Allen got MVP. He was All-Pro, second team. Same people voted on it. I don't know. First time it happened in 21 years. They don't. Who am I? I don't know. It's stupid. Whatever. Offensive player of the year. I mean, if the MVP is an offensive player, then I don't know why they just don't give the offensive player of the year too. Because if you're the most valuable and you play, like, I get defensive player of the year because it's usually not the MVP. But if you're the MVP and you play an offensive position, you're the offensive player of the year. I don't understand that. Coach of the year. I mean, Andy Reid has won Coach of the Year ever. He's won one. He's about a three-peat. He's won one Coach of the Year ever. Him and Kevin O'Connell have the same amount of Coach of the Years. Kevin O'Connell 2 years ago had 13 wins. This year he has 14 wins. He finished second in the division. I don't know what that means. I don't. Dan Quinn took the second worst team in the league with a rookie quarterback to the NFC Championship game. I mean, I guess that's the weirdest thing for me is that you think about MVP in the NBA and it's like, oh, it's the best player on the best team, usually, right? Well, why isn't the Coach of the Year the best coach on the best team? Like, this is just stupid. It's just stupid. Like Pat Surtain, he had 4 interceptions on the 9th worst passing defense in the league. Defensive player of the year. I don't know. I guess PFF decides who's the defensive player of the year now. I mean, it's all dumb. It's just stupid. Hall of Fame's gotten to be stupid. Sterling Sharp played 7 years in the NFL. He had 3 All-Pros. Luke Kuechly played 9 years and had 7 All-Pros and a defensive player of the year. It's stupid. This is just dumb. It's just a dumb thing. The Jamar Chase is the 4th Triple Crown ever, and he doesn't get. I don't know. So I'm probably just regurgitating what you're already thinking, but I wouldn't get worked up about it because it just doesn't matter because it's all stupid. Andy Reid, who people think might be the greatest coach of all time, who could three-peat, has won 1 Coach of the Year. And Kevin Stefanski, I don't think he's won the division ever. And I think he has 1 playoff win, and he has 2 Coaches of the Year. Kyle Shanahan doesn't have a Coach of the Year. I think Bill Belichick has 2. Like, it's just stupid. It's just dumb. So don't worry about it. All right. Moving on to what I've been working on. So usually I'm pretty good at getting stuff out quickly because a lot of the time my hunches are correct. But if you think about scientific method, you have a theory, and then you collect evidence, and you chart it, you data it, you try to find trends, and you come up with a conclusion. Well, my conclusion has just been kind of doesn't make any sense. Like, there's no actual trend for some of the stuff that I've been looking at. So lately, I've just been concentrating on just the first round because because this is supposed to be like towards Panthers. And our second pick isn't until 57. Granted, we can trade up, but I'm just playing it as is right now because I think the most likely thing is either we pick wide receiver, defensive end or edge, or we trade back. And if we trade back, I think that we still draft a wide receiver or defensive end. So last time I said basically that, and I came up with the, I don't know if I'm saying this again, but I came up with the conclusion that we should go wide receiver and defensive end because that's where our dead cap allows us to do it. Like we shouldn't go defensive tackle because then that's so much dead cap at defensive tackle. We shouldn't go offensive line because that's so much dead cap at offensive, yada, 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 yada. We shouldn't go safety because the league isn't going safety. Safety has become it hasn't been drafted in the first round last 2 years. It hasn't been drafted in the top 10 last 5 years. Offensive tight end has been just so hit and miss. It just doesn't, like you're talking about, like the bust potential at offensive line is OJ Howard, Noah Fant, Kyle Pitts, Dalton Kincaid. Granted, you do get your Brock Bowers and TJ Hawkinsons of the world, but then you get your, I don't know if I already said OJ Howard, your Hayden Hurst of the world, that kind of stuff. A lot of the times tight ends can be found, like elite tight ends can be found later. Like I believe Mark Andrews was a 3rd round tight end. Kelsey was in the 2nd round. Laporta was in the 2nd round. So a lot of times you can find your tight end later. Doesn't mean you gotta wait till the 4th, but I'm not considering tight end just because of the high bust potential of tight ends in the 1st round. So I just kind of settled in on edge and wide receiver, which it looks like most fans are just sold on edge. I listened to Panthers Pride podcast recently, and he's all in on Will Johnson. I don't mind corner because the league says that corner is a premier position. But when I look at dead cap and what JC Horn's about to get, and that we have Dane Jackson still getting some dead cap, and we found sort of a solution with Mike Jackson, and we drafted a corner last time that might be capable of quarterback 2. I think that's something we can wait on. But I don't hate Will Johnson, and if we do draft, it would probably be Will Johnson because he's kind of separated himself in my opinion, as the number 1 corner. But I'm going to focus today on wide receiver and on edge rusher. So basically what I did is I charted the top 3 rounds of wide receiver and edges for the past, not including 2024, because 2024, I think it takes edge and wide receiver 2 years to give us a good sample size. So I started in 2023, and because I've been going back to 2019, I decided to take it back to 2018. So I basically charted all the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd round picks for wide receiver and defensive end. And how I separated them was kind of elite status. And for wide receiver, I consider that having a 1,000-yard season. You have a 1,000-yard season, you're in that top 10 because usually only 10-ish people get into that status a year. So, and then in my 2nd tier, my kind of worth the pick kind of area, I said you had to get at least one 700-yard season, which is basically what a wide receiver 2 would give you. Like a middle of the pack wide receiver 2 would give you a 700-yard season. So I need you to get at least one of those because you're talking only like the past 6 years. So, sometimes some people would only have 2 years to get to that. And then if you have under 700 yards, because you have at least 2 seasons to get there, I'll consider you a bust for your draft position. Because if you're drafted in the 1st round, so of all the 1st rounders since 2018, not including the 2024 draft, you have 16 that had 1,000-yard season. And this is the 1st round. 16 that had a 1,000-yard season, 3 that had 700 to 1,000, and 6 that had less than 700. So percentage-wise, that works out to 64% of 1st-round picks have a 1,000-yard season. which is a pretty good hit rate. And 76% have at least 700. So you're not busting, even if you kind of just don't reach the expectations that you probably had being a first round pick. So 76% of all first round picks for wide receivers since 2018 have been fine, at least. And then 6, which is 24%, have been bust. So for wide receiver, we have a 24% bust rate. And I'm not going to go as slow for the rest of them, but for a second round, you have a 26% of second round picks have 1,000 yards. 40% have at least 700, and you have a 60% bust rate in the second round. And in the third round, you have 21, 37, and 63. So here's a little bit of like things that I can conclude from this. One, if you need a wide receiver, if you need one, just get him in the first round. You don't want to play the game of, because your odds are against you. If you're trying to find a wide receiver in the second round, the odds are against you, and the house wins. We know this because of TMJ, Devin Funches, Jonathan Mingo. House usually wins. It also tells me if I'm drafting a wide receiver after the first round, I might as well wait till the third round, because 26% of second rounders are in that elite status. 21% of third rounders are in that elite status. 40% are at least 700-yard receivers. 37% from the third round are at least 700-yard receivers. 60% bust in the second round, 63% bust in the third round. So, if I'm going to wait on wide receiver, wait till the third round. Based on just, and this is going pure analytics. This is just, I mean, we can go player by player if you want to. We could say Deebo Samuel in the second, and Cooper Kupp went in the third, Nico Collins went in the third, and then, DK Metcalf went in the second. Like, and we can nuance it. Like, DK Metcalf was 64. Like, he was right there on the cusp. Like, but that's what I'm saying. Like, that's a big bracket of wide receiver. You might as well just wait until the third round and find somebody. So let's go to the edge rusher. So the way I did this, and I did it several times because it was so hard to kind of separate, but it ended up mostly because of the nuances of defenses, mostly just because of different schemes, your coverages, whatever. So it's a bigger difference. It's a lot more middle people in the edge class, just because it's just harder to separate the good and the bad. And I did it based on sacks, which I know sacks aren't the end-all be-all, but the way this is calculated, you know that the elite are going to have at least 1 year of 10-plus sacks. You know that the duds are probably not going to have a 5-sack year. So the middle is way bigger for this sample size, but the tiers above and below are pretty much the same. So in the first round of the 6-year sample size, 76% are fine. They're starters in the NFL, which is crazy because 76% of wide receivers in the first round work out. And then 24% bust, same with the first round, 24% bust. So what do we learn? You're more likely to have a 1,000-yard receiver than a 10-sack player, but your bust is about the same. You're pretty likely to hit on your player in the first round of edge or wide receiver. Now, second round is where it gets interesting. Only 7% of edges in the second round are 10-sack edge players, and only 57% are average NFL edges. So that's actually up from what we said about wide receiver. Wide receiver was 40% and 60% bust. Edge is 57% with 43% bust. And then the third round, we have 6% are in that 10 sack area. 56% are in that middle area, and 44% bust. So what we conclude is for both wide receiver and edge, if you're going to wait for them, you might as well just wait till the third round and get your guy. Statistically, they're the same. I mean, they're the same outcome. But, and this is what we really need to ask ourselves, you rarely get an elite edge rusher outside the first round. But you can get a serviceable edge rusher outside the first round. So you can get a day one starter outside of the first round, but you're not getting your TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, like the elite guys. So wide receiver is a little different. Wide receiver, you can still get top tier talent. You have a 26% chance compared to 7% for edge to get your elite guy, but your bust rate is so much higher. Talking about 60% bust rate. So as Panther fans, the real question that we need to ask ourselves is when we're drafting, are we going, because a lot of people want edge, are we going for, I want to have an elite edge rusher, and then I'll take my chances on receiver, like the Funches, the TMJs, the Mingos? Or would I rather have a 76% chance of hitting on a wide receiver, and then the second round or third round, I have over a 50% chance to hit on my edge? That edge just won't be elite. So it's, if you're playing the math game, the safe way is to go wide receiver. Anything else in the second round, defensive tackle, tight end, whatever, and then the third round get edge. Or if you want to go high upside, and then wide receiver the third, that may or may not work out, but you have a 30% chance of hitting on edge as like an elite player, then you go edge in the first, whatever, tight end, defensive tackle, whatever, and then you go wide receiver in the third. But more likely than not, that wide receiver is going to be a wasted pick. So it's kind of comes down to, what do you think of your GM? What do you think of your system? What do you think of, that kind of stuff? But what we do know about this draft is it is a deep edge draft. So if I take all of the logic based on all these numbers, the safest way to go is to draft a wide receiver that has a 76% chance likelihood of being at least a serviceable player. And then in the second round, going defensive end, edge, whatever, because of how the depth of the class is. And then you'd likely come out with two strong players. And that's based on logic, based on what we're hearing by the media. I'm not a scout. I don't know. I don't know these things. I'm just giving you analytics based on historical data. So if all that made sense to you, and I know it's kind of complicated, I'll sum it up basically saying that I'll go by bust rate. Your bust rate for first round wide receiver is 24%. Your bust rate for second and third round wide receiver is around 60%. So likely won't bust in the first round, likely will bust in the second or third. Your bust rate for edge is 24%. Your bust rate for second and third round for edge is around 40 to 45%. So likely, no matter what in those first three rounds, you'll get a serviceable edge. So let's move on, assuming that we're going with wide receiver, because that's what I would do based on this logic, right? So then you're saying who? You're saying which wide receiver would I pick? And you kind of come up with a trend line that is kind of scary that anyone, it's such a big difference. It's so noticeable for me that I don't understand why anyone would do anything else. So since 2018, there have been 31 wide receivers drafted. I'm taking out Henry Ruggs because he got arrested his second year. He never played a full season. So I'm going to say there's 30. If you know what I mean, if you want to argue it, whatever, you can do the math yourself. There's 4 coaches or colleges that just always hit in the past since 2018. If a wide receiver is from Alabama, LSU, Ohio State, or has been coached by Lincoln Riley, the hit rate is 88%. And when I say hit rate, those players have been 1,000-yard receivers. And that's 14 out of 16 from those 4. So Ohio State, Alabama, LSU, or coached by Lincoln Riley. The 2 outliers were Addison. He didn't hit 1,000, but he had 911 yards and 10 touchdowns. And he had 875 yards and 9 touchdowns. The other one was Malik Nabers, who had 885 yards and 8 touchdowns. I'm just letting you know that because I considered them not hitting the mark of 1,000 yards. But if you consider those guys to be hits, and that's 100% hit rate. Just going by that, just that, since 2018. The other 14 are 3 and 11. 3 and 11. Only 3 hit. That's DJ Moore from Maryland, Brandon Ayuk from Arizona State, and Zay Flowers from Boston College. Those are the only ones to hit. So you're talking about N'Keal Harry, bust. Jalen Reagor, bust. Tony, bust. Bateman is getting better, but never hit 1,000 yards, bust. John Dodson, bust. Burks, bust. Quentin Johnston, bust. And then we get to the new guys. Odunze hasn't hit it yet. Worthy hasn't hit it yet. Pearsall hasn't hit it yet. And Xavier Legette hasn't hit it yet. Only 3 out of 14 wide receivers. And that's just hitting 4 things. That's just 4. You're saying Alabama, LSU, Ohio State, Lincoln Riley. Assume that we're at 100% hit rate. Because that's what I would say. I mean, Marvin Harrison's going to have a great career. Addison, 911 and 875, 2 years and 19 touchdowns. He's going to have a great year. So I'm just going to say 100% since 2018. 100% hit rate. So we look at who we have in the class. And we're going by the same rules, right? McMillan, Arizona. Nope. Burden, Missouri. Nope. Egbuka, Ohio State. Yes. Golden, Texas. Nope. Aya Manor, I think I didn't say his name. Stanford. Nope. Vaughn, Texas. Nope. Harris, Ole Miss. Nope. Royals, Utah State. Nope. Restrepo, Miami. Nope. Beck, TCU. Nope. Higgins, Iowa State. Nope. Tez Johnson, Oregon. Nope. And I kind of like that I came to the same conclusion with a guy that I've been talking about, which is Egbuka. But you have 100% hit rate, and you only have 1 player in this class that's a wide receiver in that 100%. Analytically, if we're going by because there's no other 100% hit rate. I mean, it doesn't exist. Quarterback, tight end, whatever. Egbuka should be the number 1 overall pick. Because if I told you that you had 1 player that I can guarantee you won't bust, that player's going to go number 1, especially at a premium position. Granted, I don't think he's the best player, but I'm saying analytically, you're talking about 16 out of 16. He's gotta be the wide receiver 1 of the class. And if we're saying that we've decided that the Panthers based on logic and based on we're being safe because we want 2 solid players. If we go wide receiver, it would be silly not to go Ekbuka. Even though, me personally, I like McMillan better and I like Burden better. Me personally. But you can't. You'd be the one outlier. You'd have to. Which, since I've been going Ekbuka since, I don't know, 6 weeks ago, it just shores that up even more for me. And I promise you I did not plan this. I promise. But I ain't gonna be mad if they take him. It's just, and not only that, we have no data behind Arizona wide receivers working out, Missouri wide receivers working out, Texas. So Sarkisian's from a Saban tree, which is Alabama. We'll see what happens. Worthy, it looks like he's going to be good. We'll see about Adonai Mitchell. It looks like Sarkisian's going to have. That's going to start hitting. It looks like, but we still don't know. I think Cristobal at Miami, maybe Restrepo is good because he was Cristobal was under Saban. I don't know, but all signs still point to Emeka Egbuka. That's all I got for right now. I'm still working. I'm gonna look into tight ends a little bit more. I'm gonna find some different trend lines, but as of right now, it seems like we should go edge or wide receiver. If we believe strongly in an edge, you got a 30% hit rate. And if you hit big. So if it's Williams, if it's Pierce, if it's Green, if it's whatever, and we feel really strongly about it, that's probably what we should do. But we want to be safe and get depth. Probably should go like Buka and then someone like Sawyer or Kennard. I saw in a mock today. In the second. We'll see. But thanks for listening. Till next time. Peace.